I wanted to share with you some thoughts about my experience on social media, and generally speaking, my experience um, with the public, with the art world, with the collectors, with everything that I've been experiencing over the last 30 years, pretty much. So I have a couple of videos that went viral on social media recently, which had never happened to me before. And so before that, most of the video I was putting were pretty much for the group of people who's been following me for years. With those videos, of course, the range of people who reacted is much wider. So I had a lot of comments, and I would say that for most of them, they are really kind. So, really positive, saying, I love your work, I think it's amazing, things like this. Those comments they're really nice, by the way, but it's not the one I want to talk about. The comments I want to talk about are the negative comments, the comments that says, either I don't like the work, either the work is because it's from the distance it can look like photos and so on. So what's the point? Because I mean these kind of comments. First of all, I think that when we experience things like this, if we leave a bad comment, we have to wonder why. It's interesting to wonder, why do I need to say something negative about something? I can ignore it. But it's like going to a restaurant and you don't like asparagus, and you just call the waiter and say, I don't like asparagus, so you have to take them off the menu. First of all, we don't need to all love asparagus. I can eat them, but it's not my favorite thing. But I don't see the point of being so negative. And truthfully, I've done it during the past, and I'm still doing it once in a while, where I look at a piece of work and I'm expressing something negative about it, and I realize more and more that it's not something that brings anything on the table. It's not because I'm going to tell you that I don't like asparagus that you're going to stop not liking asparagus, or that if you don't like asparagus that you're going to say, oh my gosh, I need to think about it and maybe I'm actually liking them. It's a personal experience. The other thing that I'm talking with a gentleman on a weekly basis, and we share our thoughts, and we were talking about art, and I realized that art has been the monopoly, the privilege of the elite most of the time. To have a Titian, to have a painting done, to have a piece of art done, you need some money, you need some power, and I think it has always been the same. I don't think art has been something that people with no means, with no money, with not a house to hang it up and so on, could afford. So art has always been belonging to the wealth. And I've never really envisioned things like this, but museums are populated with works that only a few handful of people have selected. And they told us this is good. And the money has been put toward these works of art to be preserved and to go through the ages. There's a lot of artifacts, I'm sure, that have disappeared because there was nobody took care of them and so on. Maybe there was some amazing painters like 3 centuries ago were painting things that were really beautiful, but so much not in the mood of the time, on the acceptation, that people let them disappear. I don't know. The fact is that the question is, are we doing the same thing today? Is contemporary art, or what is accepted as contemporary art, or what is museum and so on, is really a reflection of the public, or the reflection of a little group of people who says this is good or this is not? And once again, I'm not trying to say contemporary art is I'm not judging anything. I mean, I'm trying not to judge anything. There's a lot of contemporary artists I really love. I think their work is stunning. But there's also things that, like asparagus, that I don't necessarily like. But still, the question is, does art has to be just judged by the elites? When I was a child, I wanted to be Walt Disney. And Walt Disney, from what I learned and from what I read, if I remember, was quite upset because when the Academy Awards were giving their prizes, their rewards, for them, animation movies were not real movies. They were just like some sort of entertainment for kids and so on. We pretty much had the same kind of relationship with movies like Star Wars, that was a huge public success. And the elite, the industry said, no, it's not a great movie because it's for the mass. It's almost like what's for the mass is not elite. It's almost like the mass is not smart enough to make good choices. That's something a bit disturbing. For the reason that art, appreciation of art can also be initiated. I do believe that most of the time art needs some form of initiation to be appreciated. Like if you take someone from another continent, from another culture, he might not be able to really appreciate Western art. While for us it's great because we've been raised and born in that understanding and in that assumption. So the fact that a little group of people decide what is good and therefore what is not, is kind of disturbing. Like for example, if you take a group of mathematicians or scientists, and if you take a group of people, writers, literacy and so on, I'm not sure that their tastes are the same when it comes to art. I'm not sure the tastes are the same when it comes to a group of woodworkers or a group of doctors. Does that mean the woodworkers are not as valuable than the doctors? Or that the education and the culture of the doctor is better or more sophisticated than the woodworker? We need woodworker. We need people with range of skills that don't necessarily imply the specificity of understanding of art. That does mean that their taste, what they love, is meaningless. It's kind of a strange thing for me to realize because for a very long time I've been really inclined to look at art as that elite form. So what's in museum is good and what's not in museum is not good. Almost like I need the stamp of approval to really see the art. And the art world is this way. It's why the prices go so high on some art. It's because there's a stamp of approval on the art. Like if someone comes and you love the work, or a big collector see something and loves the work, the guy say it's $5 million. If it's not backed by some museum, some history, something, there's a lot of chance that the collector is going to say, no, I'm not going to pay $5 million for that because that's not your value. Hello, that's not your value. What's the value if it's not the quality itself? What's the value of a piece of art if it's all about the collectors who own the pieces, the shows they have, and so on. So it's almost like we build a mountain, we build like a pyramid of awards, of grants, of gratification, of understanding of scholars or whatever who says that's good. If you don't have that, it's not good. So what I realize is that the social media are kind of changing the way we see art, because someone was like, there was a comment that was saying something really crazy that said, okay, someone who has 500,000 followers is not a good artist because the mass like the work and the work is produced to seduce the mass and not the elite. Yeah, but what about the 500,000 people who follow that guy if they don't like the contemporary art in the museum or the piece? So that means that 500,000 people are just not valuable to be listened to and to be their taste is nothing. It's a big thing for me. I'm not going to say for anybody else. It's a big thing to see that because what are we looking for? Are we looking for the gratification of just that little group of people, the elite, or are we looking for more generally the love of the community? Some way to shorten the thing, we can say we just want to express ourselves and we don't care about the people around, and we just do whatever we want and the judgment doesn't matter. Yes, in a perfect world it should be this way, but I've heard so many stories about famous artists, about, we're talking about the greatest one, that they were really scared and worried about the critics, about the way their work was received by the collectors. They were not necessarily painting just for them, they were also painting for the recognition of being a great artist. So if you're successful on social media and you do something popular, I've seen as well that there's some sort of rejection by the elite, by that upper intellectual, financial, whatever class that be, if they're upper, because they have access to something, to some magic that the mass doesn't have access to. I was talking to my daughter about it, and the music industry, the strange thing about the music industry is that I'm talking about the pop music, the rock and roll, not necessarily the avant-garde music, but there was some music producers in the 70s and so on, and they heard about a band. Oh, that band is great, you should go see him, and so on. So they go see the band and they get mesmerized or not, but if they like it, they say, we're going to sign you. And then after, they spend money to promote the band. They find them dates, they find, musical tour, they produce the album, they give the studio, they give all those things to the band to promote the band. But they are behind the band. They are the one who says, this band is good. Sometimes they fail, most of the time they fail, but sometimes they find the gems that's going to make so much money. So my daughter told me that recently, for the last 10, 15 years, a lot of bands, a lot of the rap singers, pop singers and so on, they come actually from social media. They actually posted their works on social media, and then the work became famous, and then the record company pay attention to them and say, oh, I want to produce you. It's strange because I don't know if we have that in the art world. I mean the art world, the visual art world. I don't know if there's a bridge between, of course there is, because when you have 1 million followers on Instagram, your value is that you have 1 million followers on Instagram, so people are going to pay more attention to you than if you have only one with the same work. So it's interesting to see the shift in the world when it comes to understanding of art. What is also interesting is that we said, and I thought that the Impressionists were in advance, like for example, Impressionists or whatever movement were in advance in their time. So it's why most of people could not see it and not say, oh my gosh, I love that painting, I love that work, I love that art, I would like maybe to purchase it. Like the case of Van Gogh, who sold only one painting during his lifetime. But the truth is that they were shown only to the elite. They were not shown to the mass. The mass didn't have access really to those art because there was not a lot of social media. There was not a lot of way to access the work. I mean, to see a show of Van Gogh, you had to go into the Van Gogh gallery, the Schufenecker or whoever, and just see the work for real. Otherwise, you didn't know it even existed. So the one who rejected all those people are actually the elites, the one who had the physicality, the possible physicality to go to the galleries, to go to those events, those shows, the salon, and so on. So the large public, the mass, was not even accredited to see those people. Now it's strange because you see those shows of, if there's a Matisse show or whoever, like there was a Vermeer show recently in a museum, it was booked 6 months in advance. So everybody wants to go to see those shows, and the mass is going, because it's not only the elite, it's everybody. There's reasons because we've been told there's the stamp of approval by the institution and so on. But there's also understanding about I believe there's also an understanding about beauty. I can't believe most of those people go to see the Gauguin show or whatever just because they've been told it's good. I think they really have an appreciation for it. I think they really feel the energy and so on, and they want to communicate with the artist and have this experience with his work. So my vision of social media has changed, but beyond my vision of social media, my vision of understanding what is art, what that means. Is it just to be in a museum or in a private house and it's worth $2 million and people collect that art that nobody will ever be able to collect because it's just for the elite? And by the way, there's also a reason why it's worth so much money, and it's not necessarily about the quality. It's also about the investment, about it's the new S&P 500. It's a way to diversify your investment. You buy an artist that's going to take 20% every year. The reason he's taking 20% every year, it's not because his work is getting 20% better every year. It's just because there's investors, there's collectors who decide that this guy is going to become there. So anyway, it's an interesting thinking process I'm trying to initiate and to understand, because being recognized by the mass is not something necessarily negative, and being recognized only by the elite is not necessarily something just positive. So anyway, thank you for listening. Bye bye.